Where's that strong Irish voice?
Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to start. Can we have your attention, please?
Thank you. Thank you very much. I realized it was such an inspiring session that people had a lot to talk about, and perhaps 15 minutes wasn't enough. But I would like for us to come back together as one so that we can start off the final session of the day. And we will have exactly 1 hour before we have to move out of this room. So without further ado, let me introduce Catherine Naughton, who is the chair of IDDC, and she also is the director of international advocacy at CBM. One quick point, I just was reminded here very quickly. The postcards that were in your packets. Remember at the beginning of the day, I said there were postcards where you were supposed to write down your ideas on how you and your organization can promote an inclusive development agenda for children and adults with disabilities. You're supposed to jot down your ideas. We have already begun to get a few of these, and I would like to request that as you complete these with your address on the back, please hand them to one of the volunteers in the blue shirts. And we're going to do a little mapping with this, and we're going to send them back out to you later this year. So again, without further delay, Catherine Naughton, may I call you up to the podium, please? What is his name? Yeah. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. So, as Paulette mentioned, we don't have very long to do this concluding session, which, based on all the discussions we already had today, I think we could spend 1 week planning together. But instead, we're going to go through an abbreviated form of that, knowing that afterwards an action plan will be elaborated in coordination with everyone by the Secretariat. So if you feel that there's points that you haven't been able to raise or that haven't got to the floor, don't worry, that can still happen afterwards. We have time limitations today. So we've had the chance today to appreciate and evaluate our progress and achievements against the first action plan. We heard from task forces this morning, we heard ideas for new task forces, and we know as well that a lot of what has happened and what was reported on has actually been done with very little resources. So the partnership has made significant achievements to bring the issues of children and adults with disabilities to the forefront of major development initiatives and to build movements driven by governments, UN and civil society specific to the needs of children and adults with disabilities. We also managed to agree a structure today, which was a really big achievement, which was drawn out from the online consultation which already took place. So this is a real big achievement for our forum today. We also had a good discussion on the proposed vision, and we have a process planned for how to take the vision to its finalization. And we also have, most importantly, which we're going to see in a moment, I think we need to go back. Do we need to? Oh, no, you can go forward. What we have. I'm not going to read out in detail the different parts of the strategy. So the strategy has evolved from discussions that have taken place online and within task forces. And I think one thing that we can all agree on is that it's a strategy that we can buy into. We're looking at influencing the post-2015 agenda together to make sure that the rights of children with disabilities are fully included. And we've got 3 main areas that we're looking at. One of them is the commitment and engagement of governments at global and national levels. The second part is participation and engagement of children and adults with disabilities. And the third part is influencing public opinion through awareness-raising campaigns. I think already today we've seen a lot of examples of where this has already been taking place through members of the partnership and also through the partnership itself. I'm going to ask whoever is controlling the presentation to actually move through these slides. You can go, there's some detailed actions underneath commitment and engagement of governments. You can keep going. Participation and engagement of children and adults with disabilities. And influencing public opinion through awareness-raising campaigns. And this is all available in the report for people to actually read. So what we want to do in this last session is look at what people within the partnership want to contribute to achieving those things within task forces or from their own organizations. And so I'm going to pass over to my co-facilitator, Veronica Reina from GPDD, and she's going to introduce a table which looks at the kind of resources and contributions that we need to deliver on the action plan. Over to you, Veronica.
Hear me? Yes, okay. Now? Yes, thank you. So we have this requirement for you, and we are going to seek for collaboration in the following areas. In the Secretariat, in global advocacy, in national partnerships, in task forces. We had some of the reports this morning, and we have new task forces, as we have learned today from you. We have also requirement on DPO participation at key events on post-2015 development agenda. We also have communication strategy, knowledge management, and the last one is action research agenda on children and youth with disabilities. So now I am asking Catherine if she can start a dialogue with the audience to see how this collaboration could be or could continue.
So at this point, we're going to have a discussion between ourselves about what kind of resources. We're not expecting people to be able to come here and make financial commitments. And if you propose contributions that you can make, we will take note of it, but it's not considered to be a legally binding pledge. So please feel free to discuss what you think your organization might like to do. I'm going to start by opening the floor to Rosangela from UNICEF, who's going to talk about what UNICEF are going to contribute at this point. Thank you, Rosangela.
Hello. Number six. It is? Hello? Can you hear? Oh, yes. Kevin, thank you so much. What we wanted to say again, referring to last year, we were here with no money and etc. I want to say that UNICEF is making clear from the beginning that, yes, we want to lead and work with everybody on children with disabilities. It's our mandate. We have to do it. And we have been doing as much as we can. Until now, from last year to this year, we already invested $250,000 in the global partnership. And we are ready to put another $250,000 for the next 2 years to support task forces. The only resource we have from UNICEF comes from thematic funds. That's why we can only use it for the task forces that will be producing specific products. We cannot use it for a secretariat, for example. So I'm just explaining what is this number there. This was a negotiation that we are very happy to be able to announce that we can have thematic funds to support the task force for the next 2 years. So that's it.
This is really great to hear, Rosangela. Thank you very much for that. And I think everyone will agree that it's not just the financial contribution of UNICEF. As we've seen today, by the fact that we're all here in this room, UNICEF have also a huge convening power to bring us all together and to create this forum for us to discuss. And I think if you give us time, we would spend another 5 days here discussing together. So I think that your convening power, your expertise and experience from the CRC is all a huge contribution that we cannot put a dollar amount on. Is there somebody from the UNPRPD in the room who would like to? No? No? That's okay.
The resource that we listed there, sorry, Emmanuel, is the resource that we already have from the UNPRPD to engage persons with disabilities in the post-2015 process. This is money available already to push in the post-2015 process so DPOs can be part of the process. And this money is available already from the UNPRPD. So it's not specifically for the Global Partnership on Children, it's for having inclusion in the post-2015, right? You want to compliment?
But if you want, I can talk a little bit more about it.
Thank you very much.
Sure. So, as you said, there is a contribution of $250,000 from the UNPRPD fund for a project that has as its main objective the empowerment or promoting the involvement of persons with disabilities into discussions around the post-2015 development framework. This project is the project that funded the production of the publication that was presented during the lunchtime panel, and will continue to support a number of other activities, both at country level and the global level, to continue the conversation that has, that has been happening obviously in many different fora, and that the publication is aiming to take forward. How that exactly will happen will depend on a number of discussions that will take place over the next few months, as well as on what is decided here today.
Thank you very much,
Sure.
Emanuela from UNDP. So I think that everyone was here for the lunchtime session where the publication, which was supported by UNPRPD, was presented, which is so aligned with the action plan which the partnership has, targeting an inclusive post-2015 agenda, the issue of raising awareness, engagement, hearing the voices of people with disabilities and engaging governments. So thank you very much for that support to the action plan. Are there other people at this point who would like to take the floor to discuss? We have some various areas here. So there's the Secretariat, Global Advocacy, national partnerships. I think we already heard today some great reports from Rwanda and Kenya and from Vietnam, but maybe people from other countries who propose to have partnerships or work in partnerships might like to mention them. Task forces, I think we heard a lot from. We heard this morning, and then we heard during the day calls for different other task forces that people wanted to work around other issues. DPO participation at key events, communication strategy, knowledge management, and action research. So don't all jump at once. Can you give the mic to Johannes Trimmel from IDDC?
Yes, thank you, Katrin. I think from IDDC, one thing that I can commit us easily to is to join forces with the global partnership here in UNICEF on the post-MDG agenda, because that's also really at the heart of our work over the next months. So that's one point. The other is we have led over the last year the task group on humanitarian to continue with that. Thank you, Valerie. There is, I think, on the national partnerships, which you also have mentioned, I think our partners have a presence in many countries, and we are happy to engage in that, in setting up and working in these national partnerships, either as IDDC members or via our partner organizations in these countries, and make the links to it. And finally, there's this point on DPO participation at key events on post-2015 agendas, and I think that is also something where we can play a complementary role to make sure there is a good and effective presence of DPOs in all the relevant meetings and processes over the next months.
Thank you very much, Johannes. And I think, whereas one of the the things that IDDC has been doing throughout the post-MDG process till now is working with our partners to make sure that people with disabilities are part of the discussion and debate around the post-2015 agenda. We can probably reinforce our focus on youth, young people and children with disabilities. That's something that we can improve on through working within the partnership. So I have a hand down here. I'm sorry, you can just introduce yourself when you take the mic. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Georgette Mulhare. I'm the Chief Executive of LUMOS, an international children's organisation. I would like to make some very specific suggestions of what LUMOS might be able to do. In terms of national partnerships, we would be very happy to lead on, provide a secretariat for and convene national partnerships in 3 countries, Bulgaria, the Czech Republic and Moldova, the Republic of Moldova.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, that's the first one. The second one is that in countries across Central and Eastern Europe, we've convened and supported a group of children and young people with intellectual disabilities who have been challenging their governments on what they need. This includes some children who have been growing up in institutions and some in families. We would offer to help support involve some of those children and young people in the participation on the events regarding the post-2015 agenda. So again, we would finance that and also provide the support so that they could be fully included and fully participate in those events. We are very much involved in collecting data across quite a few countries about children with disabilities in institutions, and so we would be more than happy to participate in action research around that. Finally, we have 2 suggestions for task forces. I am aware and conscious that we probably don't want to have 1 million different task forces. However, we feel that there is a need for a task force on children in institutions, children with disabilities in institutions, that is looking at preventing institutionalization and on the transition from institutional to community-based services. And we also believe there is a need for a task force on children with disabilities and child protection, specifically protecting these children from abuse and neglect. We would be happy to provide staff support to convene and a secretariat to ensure that those task forces could go forward. We'd be very happy to take on that role as well, if that is of help.
Yes, very good.
Now, I don't want anyone to be intimidated by that rather overwhelming contribution from LUMOS, but very many thanks for your suggestions there. And I have Susan Seagal from IUSA. Yes, who needs a mic? Just here?
Here.
And then afterwards I have a hand down in the bottom corner there and 2 hands over here. So we have 4 people lined up.
Excuse me for being in front of you.
Right. Thank you, Susan Siegel from Mobile International. I just want to reiterate, although not a financial commitment, an expertise commitment to be on any leadership capacity for a task force entitled whatever you want, something like leadership training and mentoring. And my colleague here on my left has already agreed to, if that task force is initiated, to help. And I won't go into detail, but I think we could really move that task force forward. And I'd like to add to that task force a concept that I've been speaking about, which sort of rallies a bit of the impatience that was stated by my colleague to my left, in that we'd like to talk about moving from inclusion to infiltration. And it's okay to tweet that. I take full responsibility for the consequences. But what I'm talking about is there are many, many youth initiatives that are very well funded around the world to get youth employment opportunities, youth leadership program, and young people with disabilities are not being included in these very well funded initiatives. And it's been a passion of mine to think, one, to use young people with disabilities to infiltrate those existing programs, not to ask if they can go to those programs, but to show up at those programs and demand interpretation, demand alternate formats, and demand ramps. And I would also like to engage in discussions with those who are getting those huge initiatives to ensure, with the help of this esteemed group, that disabled youth are included in what already exists around the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Susan.
Is it me now?
Okay, wait, no, oh, well, you can go ahead. And then afterwards, I have a hand down in that corner and two over there, which we're waiting.
Thank you, Catherine. It's Colin Lowe, President of ICEVI, the International Council for Education of People with Visual Impairment. A nice, snappy title. I said if there was one thing I would do as president, it's shorten the name. I think we can possibly contribute on three fronts. In conjunction with the World Blind Union, we have an IFAVI, or Education for All Visually Impaired Children, campaign. We recognize that the United Nations Education for All initiative has had major success in many directions, but has, to a considerable extent, failed to reach children with disabilities, certainly including children with visual impairment. And so, together with the World Blind Union, we advocate strongly with national governments to overcome that situation. We have policy statements, but it's our experience that policy statements are not enough. People need to be shown how to implement the policies in detail, so our policy statements are backed up with practical implementation guidelines, and we can certainly contribute those on the global advocacy front. And I think if we can do that with UNICEF, we can achieve a win-win situation, because we can contribute to your global advocacy efforts, and the multiplier effect that UNICEF can bring to our efforts will immeasurably strengthen our campaign. In addition to that, we would like to participate with UNICEF in one or two national demonstration projects that will enable us to demonstrate how what we're advocating can be made to work best. And we would be very anxious to, with UNICEF, to identify one or two countries in which we could develop a joint demonstration project of that kind. And thirdly, in the tea interval, we've already been having discussions with colleagues about how we might contribute to the index of inclusion that was being spoken about in the last session. We have ideas on that front, and we would be very anxious to cooperate with colleagues to develop that further.
Thank you very much, Colin, for your input on behalf of ICVI and World Blind Union. And down in the corner here, and then there's two people and a further gentleman here in the front row.
Thanks, Catherine. Hi, I'm Shanta Rao Barriga. I am the Director of Disability Rights at Human Rights Watch. And I wanted to thank UNICEF and the partners here. I thought it was a very excellent day of meetings and brainstorming about how we can all work collectively. For those of you who may not know Human Rights Watch, we're a mainstream human rights group and recently created a separate division on disability rights, recognizing this as a key human rights issue that needs to be addressed. And in all of our work and the research that we do, we partner very much with DPOs on the ground, and so many of the partners who are part of this initiative as well. In our research, we base it on testimonies of people with disabilities. I think that's one way that we can contribute to the work of the partnership, is to continuing our research and link up perhaps a bit more on the strategies of what countries we look at and what issues we document in particular, so I'd be happy to engage. We work particularly on the issue of right to education, and you might have seen a report that was out on the table. There are no more copies left, unfortunately, but it was on barriers to education for children and young people with disabilities in China. And it's actually quite interesting because we included the dimension of young people and their access to universities, which I think is an issue that is not very well documented. And our research captures the testimonies of young people like Crystal, whom you heard today, to actually use those stories to compel people to change, to governments, to UN, and so on. So right to education is one area of work. We also look at barriers of children and young people who are living in institutions. And we're doing right now work on some of the abuses against young people, particularly women and girls in India, who are living in institutions and other closed settings. We hope that that research can also be valuable to this partnership. And we look at violence against children more broadly in different countries, and I can talk to you more afterwards. The last issue that we work on is disability and development, and we just released a report this week that highlights disability as a mainstream issue and pushing for a human rights approach to the post-2015 development agenda. There are copies of this as well. Again, that's the way I hope that we can work together. Lastly, the second issue that we, I think, can contribute is on media and communication strategy. Human Rights Watch does have a fairly good communications team and apparatus, and actually Jenny is an intern with Human Rights Watch this fall, and she is doing a project on the right to education for deaf people, deaf young children, and we'll be doing a multimedia that will come out in the next couple of months that we hope will be useful to the partnership, and be happy to circulate that. If you have ideas for that and how we might capture this issue or use the video in your countries, I'd be happy to talk to you as well as Jenny would. I'll end there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shanta. So we have Mike over here.
Hello, my name is GPcwd. I'm Director of Disability and Development Cooperation. It's an NGO from Germany. We do a lot of work to make German development cooperation inclusive. I would like to add something to the global advocacy strategy from UNICEF, because we also have been engaged in the post-2015 process to make it inclusive of persons with disabilities. We have a network of German NGOs and DPOs and have been engaged in this, and we would be interested to link up and to join forces together with UNICEF, IDA, IDDC, because we think that we need to become a strong a coalition to get disability substantially included in the post-2015 agenda.
Thank you very much, Gabi.
Thank you very much. My name is James Anyamzala, Uganda, President African Youth with Disabilities Network. On behalf of African Youth with Disabilities Network, we also commit ourselves to include on our advocacy agenda the advocacy for national partnership for children with disabilities from different countries. We are present in 12 African countries so far, and we are going to do advocacy around formation of a national partnership for children with disabilities. Learning from Kenya's experience and Vietnam, I'm happy to inform you that the National Council for Disability of Uganda has accepted to host the National Partnership for Uganda. So we are going to be following up on formation of the National Partnership for Children with Disability in Uganda in partnership with our partners. We are also going to support the Global Youth Council. So far we have worked around the UN Interagency Network on Youth Development, and we will be working hand in hand with the Global Youth Council to make sure that the voices of the young people with disabilities and children with disabilities are integrated. Thank you. United we stand, together we make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, James.
Thank you very much. I am Simon Munde. I'm the chairperson of the Executive Council of Federation of Disability Organizations in Malawi, FEDOMA. I'm part of the Malawi delegation, which includes the minister and other ministry officials. I would just want to make a commitment, like FEDOMA, in our national partnership on rights of children with disabilities. And basically, as a network of DPOs in our country, FEDOMA would actually be able to mobilize the involvement of all organizations of persons with disabilities within Malawi in this national partnership. And much more than that, would want to actually continue with our advocacy role in the issue of rights of children with disabilities. Much more than that, I would also want to talk of some of the initiatives that are already in place. Like within FEDOMA, we have the youth wing, where we actually are emphasizing on empowerment of youth with disabilities, as well as doing with youth participation. And in addition to that, as we associate with the government, we are also doing much in terms of education of youth with disabilities as well as children with disabilities. There are lots of challenges that are there, but with the support that we're getting from other institution development partners like the Norwegian Association of the Disabled as well as CBM, there are quite lots of strides that are being made, more especially after the passing of the bill. We're doing much of the mainstreaming activities within the nation. But I would want to propose, maybe as a way of adding some of the resolutions. I was not here in the morning, I had some other commitments. More especially to look at the development partners that we have as they're funding the various activities, more especially in the developing world. It would be nice to have a mainstreaming agenda in mind, disability mainstreaming aspect in mind, to say that no development activity should take place if it doesn't have a disability component within it. In so doing, I think we're going to make quite a good headway in terms of disability in our countries. That, I think, would be a good approach. I think more than that, I would just want to say it's good that we have this kind of an agenda on the table. And as Malawi, I think we have a very big role to play, more especially as organizations of persons with disabilities will play a big role. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So it's great to hear ideas for national partnerships, also led by youth with disabilities. So thank you very much for those contributions. I have Connie from Inclusion International, and then a hand here. I'm sorry I can't see everyone's faces because of the light in my eyes. So if I know you very well and I'm still pointing at you as if I've never seen you before, please don't take offense. Go ahead, Connie.
Thanks very much. I'm Connie Lauren Bowie with Inclusion International. Inclusion International has a global campaign on the right to decide, which is our campaign that will lead up to our next world event in 2014, next summer. And part of the campaign is engaging people with intellectual disabilities in a discussion about what it means to make decisions in your own life. And as I've been listening today and about the discussions about youth participation and children, I'm wondering if we can partner with others in the room to think about, as a part of our campaign, as we're talking at a country level with self-advocates and strengthening the self-advocacy movement, whether we can actually have a distinctive piece that's focused on child engagement, and particularly children with intellectual disabilities, that might actually end up with some products at the end which could contribute directly to this. And in the process, I think, really allows us at a national level to ensure that children with intellectual disabilities are part of those national partnerships. So thinking really very concretely about some outcomes that we might be able to deliver, in a year's time, working with people both at a national level and then pulling that together globally as some kind of contribution and media work that might be useful to the campaign.
Thank you very much, Connie. I had, yes, there. And just along the row then afterwards, the next person.
Hi, my name is Isla McTaggart. I'm a researcher in the International Centre for Evidence in Disability at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. And I just wanted to share with you all that we've done a number of projects looking at children with disabilities, collection of data, which I think everybody in the partnership agrees is a key gap, having robust, firm data to be able to leverage for advocacy with government. We've done projects in a number of countries, including Cameroon, India, Bangladesh, Malawi, and Pakistan. And obviously, firstly, we'd be very happy to share all those findings with members of the partnership. And secondly, to liaise with individual members of the partnership who wanted to collect data in specific countries with local NGOs, DPOs, etc.
Thank you very much. There's another person here, and then, yes. I'm going to just allow maybe 2 or 3 more inputs and then make some summaries. So we have, and there, and there, and then we finish. Yes?
Hi, I'm Nina from Plan International from the Australian office. Our Egypt office is interested in hosting one of the national partnerships. And I think the Plan Disability Inclusion Working Group would also be interested in being involved with the Action Research Agenda. We're currently developing a research agenda which is looking particularly at protection and disaster risk management and disabilities, and would be interested in sort of progressing that agenda in a collaborative fashion. And I also would like to second the call for a task force on protection and disabilities.
Fantastic, thank you. And Barbara from ILO here? And then afterwards this gentleman.
Thank you, Catherine. I'd just like to build on the points made by Susan Seagal about ensuring that youth with disabilities are included in initiatives to promote decent work employment opportunities for young people, because it is true that there are many, and it's a huge issue around the world. There's a lot of money being pumped into it. The ILO has a program on jobs for youth, a theme which has now become, under our new Director General, has become what's called an area of critical importance, and at the same time we are actively trying to include disability across all our work. So as part of the work, part of the Jobs for Youth initiatives, we've already started with surveys of school-to-work transitions in many developing countries, and for the first time, youth with disabilities have been included in those surveys, and so that information is building up, showing that youth with disabilities are generally in jobs for which they're highly overqualified. I think this is an interesting pattern which we need to explore further. But this will add to the evidence base for practical action by the ILO to promote decent work opportunities, both in the formal economy and also in self-employment in the informal economy, which predominates in many developing countries. So I think it would add value to both the ILO's work on youth and hopefully the UNICEF's work on youth if we could collaborate closely on this. And I think if I raised the question of transitions from school to work this morning, I think if a task force on transitions from school to work were to be set up at some stage, then certainly maybe that would be the framework for very close collaboration between the ILO and UNICEF on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Barbara. And this gentleman here wanted the mic. His hand was up a while before. Yes. And then...
Good afternoon, Lieven Bouwens of the International Federation for Spina Bifida and Hydrocephalus. We're a global umbrella of national associations for spina bifida and hydrocephalus, and I think it's perfectly in our role to partner with UNICEF and all the partners in this group on the global advocacy initiatives. I think we can provide a lot of case studies of human rights violations examples, etc. Secondly, I'm very much interested in the task force on access to healthcare, because for us that's a very important element. Thirdly, we do have a youth leaders group in developing countries, so they're meeting the end of October, so I'm sure I can involve them in national and international activities as young people with disabilities. And thirdly, we are an umbrella organization of national member organizations. I will inform our members and motivate them to take part in national partnerships for children with disabilities.
Thank you very much, Lieven. One last lady here in the middle.
Can we do two last?
Oh, sorry, go ahead. And then,
yeah,
okay, last two.
Thank you. My name is Victor Pineda, and we've been doing work under the Pineda Foundation and World Enabled. Two really important issues. We've been advocating for youth inclusion since 2005 on youth leadership, and I'm glad to see so many of our partners really looking at youth leadership, youth capacity development, youth participation. I think the next level now that we've done programs in over 12 countries with youth is we're really seeing an intersection for great opportunity in middle-income countries for youth engagement, youth involvement, and also with urban issues. So our youth with disabilities want to get involved with local transportation problems. They want to get involved with local environmental advocacy problems. And so really connecting youth with urban development and urban issues is a great way to engage with mayors, with municipal councils to really create local actions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And a last lady here in the middle.
My name is Mrs. Biodun Yuguda, the founder, Challenge Your Disability Initiative from Nigeria, Bauchi State. I think I want to mention something that's I think we have not mentioned since, is on the preventive aspects, how we can prevent disabilities. Because a lot of people with disabilities, I think is because of something that's happened to them later in life. Like we have children in Nigeria that's maybe because they were sick at a particular time in their life and nothing was done. So I think we should work more on the aspect of prevention. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Hitomi Honda from World Vision International, and we will be committed to national partnerships. Specific countries, we have to go back to our country offices, but I'm looking at around 10 countries, possibly around 10 countries at the most, probably. So that's one. And then as we are child-focused mainstream development agencies, we are really trying to strengthen inclusion in development work. So we will be producing knowledge management. In fact, we are learning around that. And especially participation of children and youth as well. So we should be able to contribute knowledge management. One area that has not been so addressed, and an area that some of my colleagues and I are very much interested in, is engaging spiritual leaders, faith-based leaders. We are Christian organizations, but we are not just working with church leaders. We are working with different spiritual leaders, faith-based organizations, and the leaders in communities to address stigma areas. So I'm not saying that we would like to see a task force, but this is at least an area that we can contribute starting from knowledge management level.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Hitomi. Now, what I'm going to do, just to conclude before handing back to Paulette, is just to look at the areas where we said that we needed contribution and to give an idea of the sort of things which we have. The first point I'd like to make is there's a Secretariat for the Global Partnership led by Rosangela with her small and extremely dynamic team. What we're talking about now is collaboration amongst the partnership, not just with UNICEF. So when we're talking about a national level partnership, for example, in Uganda, which was mentioned, or in Malawi, which was mentioned, or just from World Vision, perhaps 10 countries, or from Lumos Foundation, it can be members of this partnership not necessarily asking UNICEF to be on the ground in every single initiative. I think we have to be, we fully recognize and appreciate the convening power of UNICEF and how that can bring people together, but we also have to be prepared when we propose something like this to do the work also ourselves. So I think we have to be very conscious of the limitations in working hours of the day of the Secretariat, and also where there is something that we really feel needs to be done and needs leadership on, there's many contributions we can make. We've heard a lot of contributions people will make in global advocacy. I think it's just so strategic that the action plan aims at an inclusive post-2015 agenda. This is something that brings us all together. So we've heard networks like IDDC, like Inclusion International, like Human Rights Watch, who have got members all over the world who are prepared to join together on this particular issue now, together with the partnership. National partnerships, I can imagine, is going to be one of the biggest growth areas in the coming year for the partnership. I can hear people ready to engage. And we heard throughout the day, we heard Amina Mohammed say it, we want to make sure that this is something that can happen at the grassroots level. Whatever we talk about at the global level will only be as good as what can happen at the national level. So I'm really happy to hear people willing to step forward and take the lead in national partnerships. So thank you all for your contributions to national partnerships. Task forces, we heard IDDC say they will continue with the humanitarian task force, and I presume that all the other task forces also continue with the same leadership. So, and for people who've mentioned the need for task force, for example, on youth or on access to health, a massive contribution can also be being a focal point for that task force and actually taking the lead. So I think you can discuss that with your own organizations and go back to the Secretariat, putting your hand up to say this is something that our organization really want to contribute to in a leadership role. That will be a big contribution. Then we have DPO participation at key events. I think it's something that's been on many of our agendas. We've heard today the voices of a lot of young people with disabilities telling us that youth need to be more involved. We've also heard of particular marginalization faced with children with intellectual disabilities, psychosocial disabilities. So these are issues that in the work that we're doing already, we need to ramp up and work together with partners in the room who have more expertise in that. We didn't hear much about communication strategy, but maybe that's something that UNICEF can speak to perhaps a little bit later. Knowledge management, we heard from World Vision, and we've also heard from researchers in the room that are happy to share what they have to contribute. And also on the action research agenda, we had some concrete proposals. So before I hand back over to Paulette, I thought I should thank UNICEF, because I don't think that they will thank themselves when they're closing. So I think that we know that the amount of effort that it takes for UNICEF to bring us all here in the room together today is a huge undertaking, especially during the time of the General Assembly, and to organize it at this busy time, knowing that we were already here in New York. So I would really like to thank Rosangela and her team, Anna and Amy, to Paulette, and for them to bring in the leaders within UNICEF today as well to create this space for us to discuss and to be the engines behind the global partnership. So thank you very much to UNICEF. And with that, I'll hand back over to Paulette.
Well, I hope everybody has as big a smile as I do on my face. We have reached the end of the day. And I would like to take us back for one moment to what we said we were going to accomplish at the beginning of this day. We said that we were going to share work undertaken by the Global Partnership since the 2012 forum, which I think everybody would agree we did. We said we would agree on the governance structure, the mission statement and vision, and look at funding and thematic priorities for 2013 and 2015, which I believe we did. We said that we would advocate for children with disabilities to be included in the post-2015 development agenda through a call to action. And I think the call to action was heard loud and clear all throughout the day, particularly through the voices of the children and the young people who came and energized us all, So I think we can give ourselves a hand on that one too. Now, I'm going to close, but I'd like to get your attention here for a very important thing. I have 3 points to make. First of all, as I'm speaking, the evaluation or the, what are we calling this, the assessment form sheet is being passed out. And I would like for each one of you to it takes about 5 minutes, maybe less, to fill this out, complete this, and leave it with us at the table directly out this side of this door. Right in front of this door, there's a table with nothing on it. You can drop it on that table, or you can hand it to someone in a blue t-shirt. This is going to be very important. It's going to help us to do the analysis of how we've done today, what we need to do better, and prepare us for perhaps the next year's forum. And we really value your input. So please take the time to complete that form and leave it with us. I've just been handed a message to announce that if I can please just have your attention for 5 more minutes, I promise it won't be painful. I'm supposed to announce that the task force coordinator, nutrition, Cindy Kaplan, and the humanitarian action, Valerie Shearer, who's there. I'm just going to announce who they are. Noor, excuse me, just to announce who they are. That's it? Okay, yeah, I think they have a message for you. I want to call them up. Am I calling them to the podium? Yes, please. Valerie and Cindy, come to the podium. I understand you have a message for us regarding the task force meetings tomorrow.
The Humanitarian Task Group meeting tomorrow morning happening at 9 here in
Attention, please.
In the UNICEF building. If anyone who is not in wants to participate, please come and come to me, and we'll see how to organize that.
Andy?
The Nutrition Task Force will be meeting tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. on the 12th floor. So if you're interested in joining our task force and addressing inclusion of children with disabilities and being reached by nutrition and feeding efforts, please let us know. Thanks.
Yes. Oh, one more.
Accessible Technology Task Force will meet tomorrow at 9 o'clock on the 9th floor of this building. I've been told rooms are small, so we cannot accommodate too many people. So whoever is very keen and dying to contribute in the sector of assistive technology, please see us tomorrow, 9 o'clock, in the 9th floor. Thank you.
Noor, would you mind putting the last slide from the last session up, please? Yeah, the one about the strategic resources. I want to take this opportunity to thank all of our moderators. And then that last session, the hearty vote of thanks would go to Catherine and Maria Veronica. So thank you for that session. That was very good. I can't help but, when I look at that last slide with all the empty spaces on there, I just want to say that I really appreciate the commitments or the suggestions on what you can do what kind of resources and leadership you can provide, influence, but there's still some empty spaces in terms of money up there. I just wanted to raise that point. And I don't know, I just thought that would be interesting to bring up. I think it's very important. Now, I get to the part, now we're at the part of the full day that I love the best in any workshop, but any meeting. I think that, you know, as I said earlier, I'm not standing up here by myself as a facilitator. I want to thank Uta Frika, who facilitated upstairs, and I don't think she was not visible, but she was working very hard up there, and I want to, you know, give her a hand, a round of applause, because I think she did a great job. Very difficult situation, very important. I want to thank the dozens of volunteers who got up very early this morning and came in to make sure that people got in, helped people through the security, helped people through lunch. They were just here at every step of the way, and I think they deserve a round of applause. Now, Catherine, you did mention that small but dynamic team. I want to put some names to those faces and people who really worked, not just today, believe me. It's been, I got on this train, it's been 6 weeks ago. There was Live. Live, where are you? Liva. There's Gopal. Angela. Oh, wait, did I say Angela? I'm sorry. Anna. Sorry for that. Nur. Nilgan. Amy Farkas, who's having a baby, I guess. So she's, yeah. And the dynamic leadership of Rosangela. I don't want to stop there because I think everybody knows that catastrophes in terms of video and audio can happen, but we are so fortunate everything went smoothly today. Let's give a hand of thanks to David, Andy, Mike, David on the video, Libby, Jeremy, and Vincent. I believe that is your team. All the young people and the courageous people with disabilities today who spoke out and spoke out passionately. I want you all to know that this has been a very personal journey for me. And let us please give them a real hand, too. And now, I'm so happy. I love having the final word. And here it is. Here it is. There's going to be a reception that's going to start at 6 o'clock. And I think, you know, it'll be an opportunity for people to have a nice drink, a little few snacks, get more networking done, renew those collaborative relationships, and listen to some more speakers on this very important topic of partnership for children and adults with disabilities. I think that if I may not close, yeah, if I may close, she's going, no. I do do what I'm told. If I may close, I want to close with a round of applause for each and every one of you that made this a very, very successful meeting. Thank you. Now, I said I get the last word, here it is. We need to clear the room. You're welcome. Please. Okay, please. your attention for one last thing. Please leave the room immediately. Do not leave any personal property in the room. Leave the room immediately as soon as possible so they can set up